Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about Adept English, what we offer and how that can help you achieve the fluency in spoken English that you want. If you are new to the podcast and maybe this is even the first time that you've listened, then let me explain what we're all about. And if you're not new to the podcast, I may be about to point some things out that you were unaware of. And while I'm talking about Adept English, your brain will be practicing its English language learning, as usual. Hello, I'm Hilary, and you're listening to Adept English. We will help you to speak English fluently. All you have to do is listen. So start listening now and find out how it works. So what is it that is unique about Adept English? And why do people like us? Unique, U-N-I-Q-U-E, means that there's only one like it. So Adept English provides you with a unique combination. Our specialisation is in teaching British English fluency through listening to native speakers. We recommend a particular method of learning English, which is much more effective at allowing you to arrive at fluency than traditional classroom teaching. Learning English through listening to native speakers is a natural way to learn a language, just like when you were a child learning your own language, of course. And we hold your hand on your learning. We advise you what steps to take, how to do your learning, and on how to use the podcasts and the course materials, and on what the stages are that you will see, that you will go through as you reach fluency. And then, of course, we provide the material, the podcasts and the course material that you will use to do this. What else is unique? Well, we aim to make the material, the topics in our podcasts, interesting in their own right. Some of the podcasts aim to help you directly with grammar and vocabulary, but the majority of podcasts are on all sorts of subjects, podcast topics that you might listen to in your own language. So our aim is to make the listening interesting, easier, so that you listen for longer because you want to. And there is no subject too random for the Adept English podcast. I once did a podcast on a pub lock-in in Yorkshire in the north of England, which lasted for 3 days because of snowfall and which included an Oasis tribute band in the mix. The podcast is like a box of chocolates with no menu. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know where the podcast is going to lead, and sometimes neither do I. All of the learning is online, which means that it's hugely convenient. It suits you. It can be made to suit your lifestyle. It's flexible and you can go at your own pace. If you really want to speed up your English language learning, then there is lots of material for you to go at. It'll take you a while to get through all of our material. And if you need a slower pace because your life is busy, or that's your preference, then that is fine too. How quickly you learn depends in part on how much time you have to give to it. How many hours a week do you use Adept English for? But the important thing is you progress at your own rate, at your own speed. And some weeks you might do more than other weeks. Our podcasts are in audio format. You can get video if you want to have a look at me or you want to see the words flowing by, but it's available in audio. That means put your headphones on, put your earphones in, and get on with what you would normally do. So there are plenty of tasks you can be doing while you do your English language listening. That makes it easy to fit into your schedule. It conjures up free time from nowhere, and most of us are pushed for time. You could be on the train, in the car, walking the dog, cooking dinner, exercising. It doesn't matter. All it needs is your ears. And one of the things that we've done in the past is we've featured native English speakers with strong accents, which has been very popular native British speakers with very strong accents. We've used recordings to do that. So I've taken a recording of someone speaking with a very strong British accent, and I've effectively translated it for you so that you can practice your understanding of that accent. In fact, our most watched video to date on YouTube is of a Scottish man standing salmon fishing in a river with a very strong Scottish accent, which I explained to you, and you love that one. It has the most views. What we also do with Adept English is incorporate the helping hand. That's rule 6 of the 7 rules of Adept English, by the way. The English language is hard, and there are places where a little bit of explanation, a lesson, a little bit of help goes a long way. It clears up misunderstanding and it makes the language easier to learn. One example of that is our English consonants pronunciation course. That is a complete and thorough course on English consonants. I don't think there's a variation on English consonant pronunciation that isn't covered in that course. Please tell us if there is. Also in Adept English, in some of the podcasts and in the introductions to some of the courses, we give you tips on how to manage your learning and how to grow your ability to speak. If you look at the overall time it takes a person to learn English, then the greater part of it will be doing listening, hence our focus and emphasis on listening. But we also help you with overcoming that hurdle, that barrier that sometimes people feel when they can understand a language, but they can't quite speak it. If you'd like instructions on how to manage your English language learning, then sign up for the 7 rules of Adept English. That will give you lots of tips, and our particular listen and learn method is explained in those videos. And it's a free course too. What could be better than that? Our simplest and easiest course, the one to start with, is the most common 500 words. And that course does just what it says. It uses only the most common 500 words so that you get very familiar with those. It's a sad fact, but people can learn a language for 10 years or more and still not have acquired the most common 500 words. So this course makes a lot of sense because you are focusing your efforts on the words that you're going to meet and use the most. It saves you time, if you like. That's why we call it Adept English. Adept means skilled through practice. Adept means being very good at something that's not easy. So this is referring to the skill in English that you want to learn, but it's also referring to our learning method, which aims to cut the time it takes to learn a language. That's the meaning of adept. But of course, our bread and butter, as we say, our main event is our podcasts. On YouTube, on Spotify, or whatever platform you use, there are still many more. We sell our past podcasts in podcast bundles. That means you get to download 50 podcasts at a time. All great quality English language listening on really interesting topics at a reasonable price. What else do we provide? Well, we believe it's important that for most of our products and for our podcasts, you have a transcript. So if you watch on Spotify or YouTube, you've got the written words flowing across the video. But there's also a transcript for every podcast on our website too. Our website at adeptenglish.com, that is. Many of you don't need the transcript because I tend to spell out the more difficult words automatically in the podcast. And I know that many of you like that. But if there's a difficult phrase, if there's something that you don't quite understand, even though you've listened several times, it gives you somewhere to go. You can go and have a look at the transcript. That may be enough. Or if you still don't understand it, it gives you a chance to look up that word or phrase. Another thing you've told us that you like about the podcast, when I do a quiz at the end to consolidate your learning so that you can test out, do you remember it? Do you remember the phrases that I've been teaching? So I've had good feedback on doing quizzes, so I'll keep doing that. It's especially useful when I teach grammar. I also love the feedback that you give. I like that people comment on YouTube and in other places, and I like that you email me with your stories. If you do that, it's really good if you can give me permission to use that in the podcast, if you're happy with that. Often I want to talk about messages that people have sent me in the podcast. So it's nice to know that I can. I have permission. I also like it that you send me suggestions for podcasts. You tell me what would be useful. I'm very open to ideas. I don't have a big forward-thinking plan about what the podcast content is going to be. It's quite spontaneous often, so I'm happy to incorporate other people's ideas in it. I like a two-way communication. I also like it when people email me to tell me that they've passed an exam, got a job, or just simply that their English language learning is improving. Sometimes it's a problem or a query. Or sometimes you tell me where you do your English language listening, where you are when you listen to our podcasts. You're on your way to work, you do housework, you do your exercising to it. It kind of makes it real for me. It brings it home to me that we actually have lots of different people listening to us. We are a part of lots of different people's lives. So do get in touch if you've a story to tell, if you've got a complaint to make, or a comment about how we can make it better. And just before I finish, one last thing. Our podcast is free. In certain countries of the world, people aren't allowed to buy our materials, our courses. And sometimes people just don't have the money, but still would like to learn English. So our podcasts make it possible to access that learning. That's really important to us. But what we do ask for in return for our free material, please subscribe to our podcast. Please share our podcasts and please recommend our podcast to other people. That's how you pay us back, and we're really grateful for that. Enough for now. Have a lovely day. Speak to you again soon. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening. Please help me tell others about this podcast by reviewing or rating it. And please share it on social media. You can find more listening lessons and a free English course at adeptenglish.com.